Hello everybody, welcome to the table. I got another one for you here. It's the Elder Scrolls Betrayal of the Second Era by Chip Theory Games. And I'm still in the process of digesting all the rules and everything that goes with it. But we're gonna go ahead and at least go through some of the setup and then of course the next video will be the actual gameplay. That's usually my style is we're gonna do a quick setup. Well, it won't be quick because we're going to explain some concepts of the game. And then video 2 is where the actual play will start. So, if you need to skip forward because, this is not interesting to you, then please do so. Okay, so when you open the game, you're going to get a lot of different components. And this game is referred to by some as Too Many Bones 2.0. And the more I read the rules, the more I tend to agree, although there's some major deviations in how combat works. There's still a lot of the similarities, and just like any chip theory game, there's a lot of rules lawyering, and I'm already experiencing it, and I haven't even started playing. So my caveat to you is I might get some things wrong because the rules, the way they're written, is they need to be interpreted exactly the way they're written, but some things are confusing, and I'll share with you how I got confused on a few items. Like the big one is this concept of cooldown, but I did go to Board Game Geek and confirm that I ultimately understood it correctly, and I'll step you through that. So the first thing to understand with the components is that there is a this comes with the basic game, and these are basic chips. They're very lightweight plastic chips, fully functional for your game. And then, of course, you always had the option of getting premium chips, and these weigh a few grams and are much meatier, and they're also in line with the enemy chips. Like, they're the same quality. Now, this is an optional thing that you may not have, but I'm going to be using that in my playthrough. I do have them for Too Many Bones and for this. I love them. I love poker chips in general. You probably know from my other playthroughs, I use poker chips all the time, even on games that don't have poker chips. And so it's one of the reasons why I like chip theory games. I don't like the rules lawyering part of chip theory games, but I do love what they do. And they usually create a very entertaining game. Too Many Bones is part of my collection. I never once thought that I would get rid of it. Now that I'm reading the rules to this, I'm wondering if I have two games that are too similar to each other. That might be true. But at the same time, Too Many Bones has really nice quirks with the characters, and I think that the characters on this one aren't quite as diverse. So we'll find out more as we start playing. But first things first is you're going to have this. Next, we're going to have you're going to get this, which these are going to be tokens that are going to be used for your player creation, your character creation, and same with these. These are tokens that will also be used. You'll also have a litany of skill dice, which are here, and those are going to be for the different classes in the game. And I hate to use the Too Many Bones reference all the time, but if you're familiar with Too Many Bones, then that is going to be a very familiar concept to you. Also, there's some more class skills. Now, these black dice are status effects, so I don't remember them off by heart, but this might be stunned, or that one might be, fear. I don't know. One of them is going to be poison. It looks like that one's bleed. But, we're going to have a chart that we can look up and know them for sure. But all these black dice are like status that could happen to you. And so anyways, you got that as well. Another thing that came with the game, which I think is super cool, is they give you this thing. And if you're wondering what it is, you have these chips. This one is what day it is, because you're going to have, the campaign is going to have, you got to complete your mission in so many days. So there is a timer. And then there's how much experience points your party has earned. And they have magnets on this thing. And so the chip literally, connects via magnet. And I just thought this was fantastic. I haven't seen something that was as gimmicky as this that I love so much. Because you sometimes see dice rolling towers or whatever. this is just phenomenal. I just wish that more games did something like this. This was great. And so if you're going to be starting on day one, and then, of course, everybody's going to be starting with, oh, where is it? Oh, I have it on the wrong side. I got to flip it over. Day one with, I don't know, it's going to be 1 experience point or whatever the rules tell us to set it to. And so, yeah, and then you just rotate these however you see fit. And then this die here is used for combat rounds. So you're going to start with round 1, round 2, etc. So we'll set that aside. You're going to have a bunch of chips for your characters. And so, for example, there's different races of characters. And like this one is the Red Guard. And so they give you 2 chips. They're both Red Guards. And this is a Red Guard fighter type. This is maybe a Red Guard mage or like rogue type. That's of course the mage type. And then maybe yeah, I guess I would have to go back and, I mean, clearly that's a fighter type. But anyways, you get to pick any picture you want. It's just more, it's supposed to be in line with the 4 different types of classes. So you're going to have a sneaky rogue type. You're going to have a fighter type. This might be more of like an archer. And then this one is more of a magic user, right? But you can pick a magic user and use that picture. I mean, there's nothing preventing you from doing that. It's just for thematic purposes. Now, the rules do say that the reason they give you 2 chips is because 2 players in the party can both be Red Guards. So you can't have a party of 4 Red Guards, but you're going to have 2. Now, I just thought they were doing it because, you know, like how sometimes they make games with male and female, like, you know, these 2 sides are female, these 2 sides are male, right? And then there's different classes you can choose. And I thought they were just doing it so you can cover all the different classes. Like if I have a magic user and this picture and this picture are my only ones, anyways, this here is the, I guess I would use that for the magic user potentially. But anyways, I know I'm going down a rabbit hole here, but I just wanted to let you know that they give you 2 chips for each race. And you're going to be using one of these. Because like if you created your character and I want him to be a Red Guard, I'm going to have to use one of these 2 chips. And so they give you a whole stack of chips for all the different races in the game. And I have a bit of a mess here because I've been reading the rule book and knocking things over. But there's a lot of races to choose from. And of course, two chips per race. So you can see like the stack of chips here that has fallen over many times over. Okay, with that out of the way, and this out of the way, the next thing to get into are these chips. So you're going to have, for the black chips, these are what they used to call the baddies in Too Many Bones. You might hear me use that term again because I love that term, baddies, that Chip Theory uses. Now, since this is a licensed product with, you know, the Morrowind, Elder Scrolls, blah, 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 with Bethesda, I don't think they use the term baddies because, you know, I don't think they, you know, can. But anyways, that's what they are. Now, they did something with these. So there's one set of black chips that are here. And these are going to have a level 1, which is the number in the middle, and a level 5 on the other side. So it's this chip is representing level 1 and level 5. So it's basically 2 versions of the same type of enemy, just at different levels. And so you're going to have your levels 1 through 5s here, and then your levels 10 and 20. So this is a 10, and that side's a 20. So it's pretty easy to sort out. I don't know if you're keen on colors, but level 1 is black, level 5 is green, and then level 20 is this brick red, and then you have a purplish level 10. Okay, so you do that, and then you're going to have these tokens, which are like random treasure tokens. So just set those aside, and then you're going to have, oh, that's another race 1. So those are racial ones, and then you're going to have these white tokens, and they of course go together. Now the white tokens are meant to represent companions, like if you summon a zombie to fight for you. I don't know if that's actually possible in this game, but I'm just using it as an example. And then there's also, you can meet people along the way and hire them. And so anyways. All right, so that should all be pretty straightforward and easy to deal with. This is, I think who's the current player token. This is an upgraded version of this. So, just set those aside. And in a similar fashion, there's these plastic tokens, which are going to be used on your player boards. And they, depending on your version, you may have these upgraded metal tokens that are doing the exact same thing. So set those aside as well. All right, so next thing I want to get into is you're going to have a tutorial, which I did not enjoy, by the way. I tried to read the tutorial and go through it, and it confused me more than it helped me. And I'm going to explain why. The tutorial basically had me do things that are against the rules in the game. But for tutorial's sake, they had me do it anyways. And it doesn't help me because I'm trying to learn how to play the game, not the tutorial. And so then I was confused, well, can I do that in the real game or not? And so I had to constantly refer back to the regular rule book to verify what can I do in the real game versus the tutorial. And here's what I mean. I mean, you start the game with a battle, but it's not day one yet. And because it's supposed to be like a pre-day one thing. And they're saying that like in a campaign game, you can do this tutorial before the campaign starts. So it's a pre-day one exercise. And what you do is it's just like if you're playing a game on Steam electronically, right? You earn achievements, and then based on the achievements you earn, that determines which class you can be. So you pick your race, but you don't pick a class. And then you do this like this battle, and once the battle is resolved, your reward is you get to pick your character class. Like, I'm going to be a hunter, or I'm going to be a whatever. And I did not. I found it to be more confusing than helpful, and I did go through it completely. Now the rule book I'm not completely through yet, and I will do that. I promise. It's very thick. It's 90-some pages long, so there's a lot to go through. But the hardest challenge for me with this is that since I understand too many bones and a lot of the concepts are similar, I find myself skipping sections thinking I know this, but there's always that one thing that changed. And so that's the thing I'm struggling with here, is just staying focused. And 96 pages of staying focused is hard. But what I wanted to show you, though, is in your game, you're going to have a whole bunch of these books. So there's a book called The Gazetteer, right? And this one says Black Marsh. And you can see there's the east and western Skyrim, and then there's High Rock. And then it becomes, there's Morrowind, and it keeps going. Like there's, what's this one? Gyrodil. And then if you have the expansion, there's another one called Valenwood over here. And so I got everything in the expansion still separated a little bit. So the thing to understand is each of these are regions that you can adventure in. And so we could adventure in Black Marsh, or we could adventure in Skyrim. And that's a decision that the players make at the start of the game. Like, which one do you want to start in? And it doesn't mean that you stay in that region. I don't know all the details about how, but basically every campaign has like 3 acts. And so Act 1, you have 12 days to do this mission, right? Act 2, you have 12 more days to do this mission. And so the way I understand it is that could maybe move you around from one region to another. But the region you start in, of course, is very important. Now, the way it works when you're doing a campaign is you have these cards here that are, so these are the different orders. They're like guilds, right? So you have Undaunted, Thieves Guild, etc., right? So you have all these guilds, and you're trying to, so what you do is you shuffle, right? And then you get 1, 2, 3 of them. And so what you could do is you get to pick one of these guilds, and that's who you're going to do your missions for. That's your campaign. Your campaign is going to start with, okay, I'm going to pick the Thieves Guild, right? And we're going to do, their campaign. And actually, I was supposed to use this side. So this gives you a special ability for the whole campaign. So it says, for your guild kiosk town action, discard 1 treasure to train any, looks like a rogue type skill line from the trainer bag, right? So you would have that ability for the rest of the game. Now, the reason why picking the region is important is there's a Thieves Guild campaign that starts here. There's a Thieves Guild campaign that starts there. And every one of those books, there's a different campaign for the Thieves Guild. Okay? Completely different. So there's a lot of replayability already. I'm very excited about that. I'm not saying that maybe the combat or some of those things might be samey, but the point though is that every region has a completely different campaign for this one card, the Thieves Guild. And then there's a campaign for every one of these cards that you see here. And there's, let's see, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 9 of them. So there's 9 campaigns for each book. And that's a lot of replayability if you start to, think about it. So at the start of a campaign, you draw 3 of these, and then you pick one, and that's the one that takes you down your campaign. I'm not going to do that officially yet. We might do that as part of the next video. I just want to go through the introduction and some of the setup. But this is part of the setup, by the way, is to do this. Now, it also tells us that Black Marsh for our first campaign. It tells you absolutely pick this one if you're doing your very first campaign. And so every dang video out there probably shows you doing Black Marsh. It's not because, we necessarily want to. It's because it's the one, we're all nervous because we're learning a game for the first time, and that's what they tell you to do. So the Black Marsh is what we're going to choose as well. I'm not that confident in myself to jump into one of the other ones yet. But just helping you to understand there's a lot more game to it than just the Black Marsh and et cetera, et cetera. So we will do this whenever I get to that phase of the setup. But just wanted you to understand, at least at a high level, how the campaigns work within the game framework. All right, so Black Marsh, it's going to be, all these other books are not used. So you can just set all these aside, and there's no need for them. And I'm going to do exactly that. It gives me some table space back. All right, so with that said, the next thing that we have to do is we have to set up our cards. So I want to show you some things. So I have some piles of cards over here, and then you can see I have this little display case. And the display case is also super cool, but not original, of course, but I still love it. So they give you this display case, and you put your cards and whatnot in here. And the big thing to understand is these are legendary treasures. Shuffle them and just put them in the front, okay? These are regular treasures. Shuffle them, put them in the front, okay? Now, the rest gets a little tricky. And my apologies, I got to respond to somebody. Okay, sorry about that. There was definitely a communication I needed to get to right away, so my apologies. All right, so getting back to this, I said the rest is more complicated. It's not, super complicated, but here's the deal. So these cards are your quest cards. Think of them as like personal quests or group quests, and those you just, again, you shuffle, and they go in the back here. Now, these up here, I haven't described what they are, but those are basically your skill sets. So if I'm a particular class and I'm a rogue, I may not want to be using the destruction staff because it uses the magicka skill, right? And we haven't talked about the different skills yet, but it's just like a regular RPG, right? You have the magicka skills, right? So, and I have these sorted, so all the magicka skills are on top. Then you have these stamina skills. So a rogue might actually choose the acrobatics or the shadow, right? Or, Even like now, the armor is also part of the stamina thing. So even if you're a warrior, you may still use stamina-based items like heavy armor. Then there's two-handed, hand and shield, one hand and shield, and so forth. There's even a speech skill, right? And here's a bow, which is also a stamina-based skill. And then light armor is actually a magic skill. And how do you even pronounce that? Legerdemain? I apologize if I butchered that. And then there's an illusion as well. Now, some of these are expansion items that came from the Valenwood expansion. So if you just have the base game, you might be missing some of them, like that Legerdemain, which I should never try to pronounce more than once. But anyways, all these are things that when you create your character, you're going to be choosing these skills. And then as you play the game, you can actually get more. So these just go in the back. And so easy peasy, right? And then I have a few more here. These are, everybody's going to start the game with this. This is a combat one. And then on the other side of the combat is your player aid. So it's just, everybody's going to get one of these. And then, like I said, other side's the player aid. So we're going to do that. Okay, then from here, there's 3 decks of cards that we need to spend a little bit more time on. So you have these blue cards, you have these red cards, and then you have these blue backed cards, which are going to look like this on the other side. So we got to go through all 3 of those because these are a little more complicated, but it's not bad. Just bear with me. It is going to confuse you at first. The first thing I will tell you is don't shuffle these, or those. It's okay to shuffle these, and these, and then of course these ones shouldn't be shuffled either. Now, what are these cards? These are what's called peaceful encounters. These are threatening or aggressive encounters or whatever they call it. And then these are actual encounter or delve. They're called delves, like deep delves, or think of them as like mini, what's the right word? Something a little more in depth than this or that. How about that? Like this might actually be an actual battle, whereas these are more events. And I could be wrong in my overall depiction, but that's my impression right now. Okay, so why is this complicated? And first of all, make sure you don't shuffle them. So here's why. And I'm going to show you, we're going to grab, this stack of cards here. And you can see that these are the red cards, right? And at the bottom it says BM01. You see that? And then it says BM02, etc., right? And I keep going. And then I have the blue cards, which are also BM09, and it keeps going. And then eventually it goes to HR01, and then it keeps going, etc., etc. So HR, and then HR blue, and then it eventually gets to, CY, and it keeps going, right? So I have them all in just one big stack here, but they're sorted. They're sorted by those letters at the bottom. So let me help you out. That BM there at the bottom of this is for Black Marsh. So those are the ones we're going to play with. We're going to play with these, and we're not going to use any of those. Those are all out of the game, at least for this portion of the campaign. Like, if I end up moving to a different region or whatever, then that might change. And again, I don't remember if I can move different regions or not in a campaign. So then, like, the next one was HR. And so somewhere in here, here it is. We have a book called High Rock, right? So that's the HR ones. So hopefully that helps you shed some light on what the different cards are. So when you play any given campaign, these ones are all, at least at the start of this campaign where we're going to do Black Marsh, all these cards, and there's a lot of them, are out of the game. But this is also part of the replayability experience, right? Because every time you go to a new region, you're going to get a whole new set of cards that are going to be added to your experience. So I'm going to go ahead and just set these cards. I'm actually taking the top of one of these chip trays and just putting them in there so they don't scatter all over my table. And so those are set aside, right? So I got them here, and technically you need to have them as 2 separate decks, right? So you need a red deck and a blue deck. they're in there. Now, what are these cards? Why are they separated? Well, these are GE, which stands for generic. So these are used in every campaign, no matter which ones. But the rules say that I'm going to shuffle these, and I'm going to only select, I think, 4. I'll get you the exact number when we actually go through the steps, but I believe it's 4. So we're going to shuffle these, you know, do, and then we're going to grab 4 of them, boo, 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 and then those 4 will get shuffled in with these, and that's what's going to form the actual deck that's used for the game. And so even from the generic set, you know, we're going to have some replayability, right? Because these cards aren't going to be used every time. So, but I have those over here because since they're generic, they're used all the time. So we have them for the red and we have them for the blue. And I believe it's the same rule. We're going to do 4 and 4 of each of these, right? And now the delve cards, these ones though, if I remember correctly, they're 100% used. So we're going to use all the generic delve cards. And by the way, they use the same terminology. So the delve, we have all these generic cards, and I'm pretty sure they're all going to be used. But again, when we go through the steps, we'll verify. And then also, once again, with this big stack of delve cards, it's the same deal. We have at the bottom, you know, VW is the Valen wood, right? And then the BM should be actually in the front because I think I had them sorted. Oh, these are HR, right? So BM's in here somewhere. So these are all the Valen wood expansion ones. We're just looking for BM now. We got CY. There it is. So my hand's underneath the camera. So I'm pulling all these cards out, and here you go. There's BM01, and then we just grab until the BMs run out. So here you go. So there's like 11 cards, right? So we have for BM, we have these 11 cards, and they're going to be mixed with the generic cards, and then all these other cards that have the other letters underneath them, these are also out of the game, and you can see there's a lot of them. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. That it's seeming like it's a, you know, I feel bad for the poor designers because coming up with all those cards had to have taken them a lot of time. But it does make for a good game and to have the variety. I hope there is variety, right? Because maybe they're too samey from one to the other, but you know, we'll save that criticism for when it's actually deserving of it. The other thing is they give you these bags, and once you form this, so we'll go through, we'll get the decks shuffled, and then these will actually be the real decks, right, that are going to use for the campaign. And then I'm going to set this aside and then go back to the baddie deck, or the bad guys. And so then what you have to do is you have to take these, and they go into the bags. So we have 3 bags here, and you can see this one is for the, these are for the trainers, right? So when you go into town and you get trained for a new skill, there's 3 types. You got a rogue type skill, a magicka, and a, you know, melee type. And they're described in your book. So if we open up the Black Marsh book, you can see like there's trainers and there's the 3 different symbols. And so you're going to be doing or conducting training, you know, so this is if you meet a traveling caravan, there's going to be like trainers from all 3 guilds, you know, available. I don't know if guild is the right word, but you're going to be able to get skills from all 3 of those, and you're going to draw them from a bag. And it's saying that there's 2 of them available, right? So actually, they're actually the names of the trainers. So you're going to get like a rogue type trainer or a magicka trainer, etc. So anyways, that's it with this. And as you go, like this particular town, Fort Redmayne, only has 1 type of trainer, and they don't have the other 2. But the point being is you're going to draw that many number from the bag, and that's how you're going to determine what kind of training you can do in that town. Now, where do you get those tokens? Well, that all comes from what you see in here. They're buried in here, and we just got to get those tokens out. And but those will go into this bag. Now the other two bags are labeled properly. You can see this is labeled 1020 for the baddies, and this is labeled 1 and 5. Now these bags might be an expansion or an add-on, because they also give you this bag with the game right here. That bag came with the basic game. It also says 1020, but it's the only bag that came with the basic. Oh no, I'm sorry. There's another one here that says 1.5. So the game gives you both of these in addition to those. And I don't know like which one is considered to be, like this feels really nice because it feels like a silky smooth. This is like a burlap sack. I don't know which one's the upgraded one. They both look cool, if you ask me. I would have been totally happy with these bags. But yeah, one of them is maybe an upgrade and the other one's not. All I can tell you is that in this one, I have an extra bag for these. And in the other ones, they only provide those two bags. They don't give me a third one, at least not to my knowledge. Another upgrade I have is I have these for the characters. So when you're creating your character, you can put your cards in, and then it even has a place for you to put your equipped items. And so you can put everything in here, and then basically it's a way of saving your character for between sessions. Or you could use it even while you're playing. And it's very neat. Total overkill. You don't need these at all. But I find them to be extremely attractive, though. I mean, they did a great job, and look, there's 3 of them there. There's like a different color for each player. It's well done, but not necessary, of course. So why am I bringing this up, though? The first thing that you need to do is all of these tokens are going to go in this bag, except for certain ones, and that's what we got to sort out here. So let me grab like a handful of them, and I'll show you what I mean. So this token here has a level 5 on it, right? And then there's nothing underneath it other than it says Imperial Marauder. So this is what they call a generic token, and it's for sure going to go in the bag. So I'm going to set it down because that's going to go in the bag. Then here's the next one. It's called a Hackwing. But see right here? I don't know if you can... So it's this spot right there, right above my fingernail. It says BM. So that is specifically for the Black Marsh. So this Hackwing, you're only going to encounter it in the Black Marsh. You're not going to encounter it anywhere else. That, of course, is going to go in the bag because we're doing Black Marsh. And then you have to go through, and, I see another one. This one has Black Marsh. It's called the Voroplasm, or the Bog Dog. So I see Black Marsh on that one. But see, this one says CY, and it's the Will-O-Wisp, right? So this one is out of the game. We don't use this one unless we're playing on the CY territory. So you just got to sort them out and go through each one. And I don't have an easy way to suggest to go through them, other than if you had them sorted before the game started. And then whatever ones you select, they all go in the bag, right? So we're going to keep going. I'm starting to think that, because this... I actually think these are the upgraded bags, these here. Anyways, so this is in like an HR. This one's in MW. Another HR, and you can see a lot of them are going in the bag. There's very few of them not going in the bag, but you do have to go through them all. And SK, in, this one is MW, SK, and see why. So looking at the 1 to 5s, we put everything in the bag. These ones are not used for this mission, and they're very slippery. I don't know if you've noticed that, but they're slipping around like it's really hard to stack them. The cards are the same way. They're very slippery cards. So, Chip Theory does that pretty regularly. So, what is it that so with the, this bag, it's silky smooth to the touch, but the draw part is very, like my hand barely fits. Whereas this one has a really nice wide pocket. So I'm going to use the other one. Even though I actually like the feel of this bag a lot. So this one, I mean, it's just more of a burlap feel, but this one, I can shuffle my chips a lot more when I'm drawing. And it's got a nice drawstring. So I think these are actually the upgrade ones. So I'm going to use those. And then I'll set this one aside as well. And yes, we got to do the same thing now with the 10 through 20s. And yeah, see, look how slippery they are. They're just sliding everywhere. All right. So one, and I know this is probably boring for you. I apologize. I'm trying to go through it as quick as I can. So we got a Titan. Here's the first, that's an SK. There's an MW. There's a BM, the Argonian Stalker. And what you could do is you could just say, hey, just throw them all in the bag. And then if you draw one, you have to check each time you draw until they're all eliminated, right? You could do that. It would save you some time. I have been known to do that before, where I just throw them all in the bag and then it's like, hey, just make sure it doesn't say any letters on the bottom other than BM. Because if you get one of those, then just draw another one. Here's a CY. MW. Here's another BM. So the Wamasu. HR. CY. I am a big fan of this mechanic. Chip Theory does do a lot of cool stuff. So the way they're controlling the difficulty, and the reason why they're saying use Black Marsh first, is I'm guessing that these other bad guys are they got some skills on them that are going to be more challenging to deal with. So you got the generic guys, and you have the BM specific guys, and they're going to give you a challenge, yes, but they may not be as challenging as these. And so they can throttle the difficulty of a campaign, or the challenge, if you will, based on that. Okay, so these chips here are out. They're not going to be used for the campaign. So I'm going to set this aside. Now, one other thing I wanted to show you is when we're choosing the Black Marsh, so going back to the concept of we're drawing the Thieves Guild, right? So where was that Thieves Guild one? Right here. Right, so if we're doing the Thieves Guild, it is guild card G08. And somewhere in here, we're supposed to, right here, the guild quests is on page 18. It says, and then the Thieves Guild is on page 19, according to this. So if we open this up to page 19, we can then look at the details of the Thieves Quest right here. And you can see it's titled Thieves Guild right there, and it's the AO5, and then it says complexity 3. So some of these are going to have different complexity numbers. This one has a complexity of 1. Now, complexity is not the same as difficulty. The key thing, though, is the complexity of 3 means that there might be more game mechanics involved. Whereas the complexity 1 is simpler from a game mechanics perspective. Not simpler to win. It's simpler to just understand the rules. So you could, and it recommends that for your first campaign that you pick a complexity of 1. just because it eases the game in. So we would possibly choose this unnatural selection one instead of some of these other ones. So like the Thieves Guild one is actually probably not a good idea, but there's also this Birthplace of Aberrations, which is also complexity of 1. So there's multiple complexity 1 quests that you can choose from. And then, of course, once you select your quest, there's going to be some extra detail that you do for your setup. But with that being said, you got basically what you need to set up the game. And so now it's just a matter of getting out your rule book and jumping to the setup section and finishing it up. So if we go to, they do a great job of showing a picture of every component, and I cannot tell you enough how much this has been helpful. Because like these blue cards versus this, like these are overland encounter cards, province specific. These are overland encounter cards. I'm sorry, general. Oh, sorry, that's not what I meant. But the point is they're overland encounter cards, and then these are delve cards. And yes, you have province-specific ones, and then you have the general ones that we talked about. So if we go to this page here, this is your setup. And you can see it's a lot of stuff to go through. But most of it is, we've actually done a lot of it. So we're going to choose a province. So step 1, choose a province. We chose Black Marsh. Okay. Then we're going to have to grab the overland map. And I haven't shown that yet because I have a very messy table, right? I got to clean it up before we start playing. But over here, I have all the overland maps shoved aside. And one of these is going to be the Black Marsh. And they're double-sided. So right here, the Black Marsh is on the other side of Morrowind. So this is the map we're going to use for the overland exploration part. So I'm just going to set that over here on the side. These other ones, again, are out of the game. So I'm just going to set those aside. And so that's what it's telling you to do. Grab the overland map. And then Gazetteer. Okay. Set up dice, chips, tokens, and pegs. Set the dice storage trays. Basically everything we just went through. Sort the circular attribute tokens, which we haven't talked about yet, but we'll get to there. And actually, let's talk about that now. Then place all skill line tokens in a trainer bag. If you're playing a solo game, it's recommended you remove duplicate copies of each skill. I can understand why, because if you need a certain skill and you put duplicates in the bag, and you're drawing 3 of them, you could draw 3 of the same skill, and that's not going to help you very much. We are not doing a solo game. We're going to play 4 characters. I'm soloing 4 characters. None of this nonsense of a solo. Okay, so I've been avoiding a few discussions. The first one is, this is your player board. So it's in this really cool plastic thingy. And what you do is you just take the plastic off. You need both hands to do it. And it's really meant for storing, like if you have to save the character, you can put all your dice in here, and then this closes over top, and you see it's got little bubbles for your dice to fit. But anyways, take this off. And this is your character board. And I think that for the most part, you can actually put your dice right over top of this and use the plastic underneath. But you can also just take this out. It's just a mouse pad thing. And then you can just use that as your player board right up against the actual table itself. So I don't know which is more ideal. Maybe leaving it in the plastic might be best. I haven't determined that. But what they're getting at is, so when you pick a character, and I haven't gone through all these yet, but this is like the Breton, these are races, right? The Breton race has a special ability for the race, and it doesn't matter what class you pick or what. And then they start with certain skills: health, stamina, magicka, combat, and cooldown, right? So all these skills are going to go into your player board. And when you take this represents stamina. And see, it has like a little arrow on it. So if I want So this here is the stamina token. So what I can do is I just put this somewhere on here. And so let's say I want stamina to be at the bottom. And where it is in these 4 spots does not matter. So if I put stamina at the bottom, and by the way, per the rules, they have it here, doesn't matter. The point though is then if I'm starting with this character, he has 2 stamina, I take this green chip and the arrow, I want it to point back to the left. So it's pointing back to the token. And then I would put 2 of them in to represent that he has 2 stamina. And it's going to look like this. Right? So that's how that works. And then you're going to do one for Magicka. And then right here, this is a 5. And then the other side is a 4. And this guy starts with 5 health. So you would take the 5 and you'd put it up there. And that shows he has 5 health. Right? So you would set this up. And then there's going to be a Magicka and a... oh, what's the other one? I'll have to look. There's one more. But basically, that's going to come out of these tokens that you see here. And this is, I believe this is the combat one. And we'll have to look up what the different tokens are. And you can see there's a lot of them. So these are for sure the stamina ones. The green ones, right? So I'm going to set those aside. And there should be 4. These ones look like the Magicka ones because they're generic blue. So if I put the Magicka one there, for example, we got that going. And then we have other stuff. Now, what are these other stuff things? Well, some of these are the trainers, right? That's one of the trainer tokens. And then I don't know what these are, so we'll set that aside for now. And then there's also, oh, we got this one, which I know is one of the tokens. Combat. Combat is what it is. So that's the combat token. And then we have like this here. So yeah, I got to do some checking on what some of these are. But obviously the ones that are meant to be on the player board there's only going to be 4 of them. And because there's only going to be 4 characters in your game. So anyways, we sort these out. And you place them on your character, and you put these tokens on to represent, like I have 2 points of stamina. And then you can see I have, this is for health, and this is for Magicka. All right. So now, there's also this thing called combat. Now, the thing about combat is it has to go on the right side. And wherever you choose to put it, you're then putting dice for your combat skill here, and they're going to go this way across. So as you level up your stamina, you're going to put more and more going this way. If you level up this, you're going to go more and more going that way. And so where you put them in the row is going to matter because you're going to run out of space. There's only enough space for one thing. So if you're planning on having a really high stamina, you don't want to put your combat on the same row because if you want this to get really high, then that means you can't improve your combat. But if I got a melee character, who's just going to be murder, death, killing, fighting, I'm not going to be using any magic at all, right? Because I'm just a barbarian. Well, I'm going to put my combat right down here where the Magicka is, because at most I probably only have 1 Magicka in the game, and so I'm going to put this here, and then I have all these spots left for the combat tokens. So see how that goes? All right, so that's the idea of how you're going to be leveling up your character, or how you're going to be creating your character. And then as you level them up, they're going to, improve those skills. And I'm going to flip to the player creation, which is a little further along. And they don't do a good job of, they don't have a great picture, but here we go. So what they're saying is, and this is the part that I was missing. So they have health at the top, then there's stamina, then there's Magicka. Then see this, that's a little staff. That's one of these skills, the destruction staff skill. So you're going to get dice that go with that skill. And so they're showing that he's got, levels of that. And that's actually what these are. These, So basically, he's got symbols that represents that he has levels of that particular skill. And I'm wondering if a lot of these chips are for those various skills. So we'll get that figured out as we go. But so you start the game with 2 skills. You have a combat skill, which is here, and you can see his combat skill is on this row with the stamina. But this one is a magic user, and his magicka is going to be more important. So he wanted a whole row for the magic, and then he took a magic, the destruction staff skill. So then he's got 2 levels or 2 dice for the destruction staff. And those dice are buried somewhere in there that you would have to go get them. And then he puts the 2 dice on, and then he has the circle here to show he has that skill. So somewhere in here is the destruction staff skill. So like, I think this is like if you have the bow skill, right? That's what that's supposed to represent. And somewhere in here, like that. Right, I think that's the destruction staff skill. So you would take this if that's what you're starting the game with, and they give you 2 of them because you can actually have 2 characters in the game that are the same class. That's not. They give you multiple copies of these, so 2 people in the game can have the destruction staff skill. Right. So, anyways, you have complete autonomy over how you build your character here. The only requirement is that the combat skill has to go on the right side. So it's going to conflict with a row somewhere. You can even put it on your health row because you're planning on not having a lot of health. And then you give yourself freedom to upgrade everything else. So that's a decision we're going to have to make with character creation. All right. So what they were saying is we got to set aside these tokens. And let me get the rule book back to where it was. So it's just saying set up the dice, chips, tokens, etc. And then the enemy chips we just did, right? Level 1 and 5 go in a 1 and 5 bag, the 10. And then it's telling you that you need to make sure that they match the overland map. And then it's telling you for your first game, play the jailbreak introduction, which we're not going to do. Then it says set up the card decks. And so this is where we're going to get our details. So it's telling you there's 2 overland decks. There's peaceful and conflict. The red ones being the conflict ones. Each overland card is marked with the icon in general. So to set up each deck, shuffle all 10 general cards and draw 4. Then take the 8 cards from the province you're playing and shuffle them with the 4 you just selected, and that's going to form your deck. And that's for the blue and the red. You do it for both. Then for the Delve deck, you have the GE for general. Remove all special cards marked with SP from the Delve cards associated with your province. So for the Black Marsh, there was 1 special card. Because you can see we have the BM stuff here, right? And then at the very end, we have a special 01 called the Submerged Chamber. So this one you set aside, and it comes into play whenever you encounter something that would bring that into play throughout the play. So basically, it's a card that is not a part of your deck until some kind of event puts it in as part of a deck. And so that's the first thing it's telling you to do. Shuffle the remaining Province Delve cards with all of the General Delve cards. And then refer to the Delve feature section of the Gazetteer for any additional setup instructions, which is what you're going to have to... So we're going to have to open up the Black Marsh book, and there might be additional instructions in there. And then there's 2 item decks, common and legendary. Shuffle those. So when we get back to here, this is the all the Delve generic ones. So we're going to take all these and all the BM ones, and then we're going to mix them together and then just shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. And they are very slippery. You got to be really careful you don't drop them all on the ground. But anyways, we're going to shuffle these, and then they form the Delve deck. It's not very thick, but it's I can tell you that our campaign is going to be no more than like 12 days. And how do I know? Because there's only 12 days on the day calendar. So you don't need to, on 12 days, I think there's more than 12 cards in this deck. So we're good to go. All right, so it has some shuffling, and there they go. So with these, I don't know what any of these do. They are sorted in number order, so I'm going to shuffle them a little bit. And then without trying to look at them too deeply, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the rest of these generics are out of the game. And I just got to put them somewhere where I'm not going to lose them. And then I take these blue along with all the BM blue, and then those get mixed together and get shuffled. And remember, not every day is going to have a delve. So as much as that delve deck looked like it was maybe 15 cards, and I'm like, hey, there's 12 days, you may not do a delve every single day. And then here's the Peaceful Encounter deck. Then we got to do the same thing for the reds. So just going to do a real quick shuffle. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I'll put the other ones off to the side. Mix them in with the other reds. Then off we go. I know the shuffling is not always the greatest. They are really, like, even though they're slippery cards, these are very nice card stock. I do like the card stock. And by the way, Chip Theory Games is the only game you can play in your bathtub because everything's waterproof. Okay. So we did this. We have to set up the map tiles, journal, and dial. So this is the part I was guessing a little bit. So I have to take the neoprene mat tiles and sort them by shape. Set aside the large double-sided clash tile and the 5 hex light green entrance tile. The remaining tiles are delve tiles. Shuffle each stack face down. Place them together as shown. These tiles are used to build the map during the different types of battles. All right, all they're referring to, and I have it buried over here underneath my other components, is there's this giant plastic thing, and I'm gonna have to put the camera down. Sorry. I gotta make room for putting all this stuff. So these are all just neoprene mats, and as you can tell, there's like different flavors of environments. And basically, what it's saying is we need this one for our adventures, and then there's this big map here, and there's a bunch of smaller ones, and these smaller ones need to be like put face down because maybe the symbols on them are different. I don't know. And then as you can see, there's even smaller ones, and then of course there's other ones over here as well. And I'm guessing because some of these are loot tokens versus monster tokens, like they're going to make a difference. And so what they're saying is we gotta basically shuffle them and then have them all face down and ready for us to draw when we need to draw one. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to keep them in the box, and we'll just draw them as we need them. And if I have to draw one of those smaller ones, I'll shuffle and grab one then at that time. So for now, I'm just setting it off to the side in my pile of mess over here because I want to focus and keep going. So for the campaign journal, which I haven't talked about because I've been ignoring it, there is a pad for you to write on that you can write adventure names and etc. and some keywords you might earn. So you know me, I keep these note cards nearby. I have a whole stack of them over in another drawer, and I keep them here. I actually have like this for when I need to grab stuff real quick. So I am not going to write on that. I like to preserve the stuff that comes with the game. So it says if this is your first session, choose a party leader. they'll be responsible for recording the progress. I'm going to choose me because as much as I would love for some of you to join me, you're not here. So then the XP dial tracks the party's gained experience. The day dial is used to track the quest days that have passed. Place the XP and dial chips. If you choose to play the jailbreak introduction counter, rotate the XP dial so the pointer is at 1. If you choose not to play it, set it to 2. Regardless, the day dial will remain unset until later. So technically the day dial is not even 1 yet, but this should be 2. So obviously I'm not on a stable surface, but there we go. I was able to rotate this to 2. And one thing I read is, so the experience points for the party is 2. And this is just like if you played Too Many Bones, you might be familiar with this concept, but the party experience level is going to determine how many bad guys are going to show up on an encounter. So as you gain more party experience, the bad guys are going to get more and more challenging. And I think the day might actually play in as well. I'll look up the formula later. But the key thing, though, is you can also get what's called bonus experience. And that does not count. That's for an individual character. Bonus experience does not cause this to move up. So there are 2 different types of experience you can get in the game. And so it's saying the day dial remains unset until later, but I'm pretty darn certain you're going to start on day 1. Unless you're doing the tutorial. Because like I said, if you're doing the tutorial, there's a pre-day, kind of thing that has to impact you. So then you also have the game difficulty, where we have to select the difficulty levels over here on the side. Now, there was some confusion I had. There's this thing called cooldown, and the cooldown determines how many dice you get to recover during a battle turn. Now, this has a thing called an adventure rest, and that determines how many dice you recover when you rest during an adventure. And the rulebook sort of insinuates that it uses your cooldown skill, but it doesn't. It uses your difficulty level. Sorry about that, somebody came home. So you have to pick a level, and Jesus Christ, Mindy. Just when she stopped barking, she starts again. All right, so it's giving you like a little explanation of what adventure rest means. There's engage actions. This is how you actually do your combat. And then there's session final battle. That's, of course, you're fighting the boss, right? So there's 3 difficulty levels to choose from, and they impact each of those things. So Apprentice, of course, is the easiest, and it modifies the adventure rest step and some quest steps. But we're going to do the normal difficulty, which is Adept. It's average. Adventures only remove 1 die on the cooldown track, and they heal 1 hit point during the adventure rest step at the end of each day. That's all it modifies. And then, of course, with the Expert, you can see this is a lot worse. They're relying on food and all kinds of other stuff. We're not ready for that yet. I mean, you could argue that I probably should be playing Apprentice, but I'm not, going to do that. I want to play it at the regular difficulty. So we do that, and then we got to set up our adventures. And if it's the first session, then each player creates an adventure as described on page 19. And if this is your first game, they want you to play the jailbreak. And then we set up the guild quest, which I went through quite a lot of. And that's where we have to shuffle the cards, draw the cards, and then voila, there we go. So I'm going to just show you real quick that the game comes with all these classes. Now, granted, the Breton class, there's 2 of them, because you're allowed to have 2 of them in your party. But once again, you can see like this is a mage-looking, or I don't know, maybe a cleric-looking one. That's a mage-looking one, right? And then they've got the male and the female, which I also appreciate. And then that's like a rogue-looking one, and that's a bow one. So one of these should have been a fighter. I guess not. So that's the closest you're getting to a fighter, is that one right there. But yeah, so you can pick a Breton class, and it's just a picture. putting way too much into that. The stats are exactly the same. Doesn't matter which one you choose. They're all going to be 5, 2, 3, 1, 2. And the skill or the unique ability that gives you, you're really just choosing flavor, the picture between each of these. But the stat and everything else is the same. And so we got the Bretons, we got the High Elves, we have the Dark Elves, we have the Khajiit, we have Red Guards, we have Wood Elves, we have Argonians, we have Nord, we have Orc, and we have Imperial. Okay? Every one of them has these unique abilities, so we'll have to study those. You can create a party of 4, so that means I can have 4 of these in the game. So I'm gonna have to be careful, like, okay, what do I want to do? And then the only thing worth pointing out at the moment is that the Orc is the only one that has a cooldown of 3. Now, I haven't explained like how combat works, but basically, as you roll dice and use them, they're gonna show up on the bottom of your board here, and they're just gonna queue up. And at the end of the battle round, based on where you are on this track, that's your cooldown. If you have a cooldown of 3, you get to take 3 of those dice and make them active again. If you have a cooldown of 2, you only get to do 2 of those dice and make them active. The Orc is the only one that has a cooldown of 3. So at the start of the game, they got the best cooldown in the game. So that might be something that you might want to do. Now, during level up, when you get experience points, you can spend experience points to improve your cooldown, but it's the most expensive skill to upgrade. So there's some rules on it, and I have to refresh myself on it. But that's something to understand. And then the Red Guard is the only one that has 1 cooldown. So the Red Guard has the worst cooldown. And let me grab the Red Guard here. It has a cooldown of 1, which sounds horrible, but if you look at their skill, once per battle, during a turn, remove up to 3 fatigue or status dice from your cooldown track and heal 1 for each die that you removed. So even though they only have a cooldown of 1, they get to remove 3 of them all at once, and then they get to heal themselves along the way. So they sort of have a compensation, but it's just once per battle, whereas the cooldown is every single battle round. And then also understand that you could still, even though you start with 1 cooldown, that's something you can still upgrade when you level up. So it's something that I think as you get experience with this game, you're going to start to like certain races over others. I have no clue, but I have to choose 4 of those. And then when you choose them, you have to also choose a class. So we have the Rogue, right? The Pilgrim, the Bard, the Acrobat, Scout, Burglar, and it goes on and on and on. And then you can see Necromancer, Sorcerer, Healer, Archer, Knight. Now, each one of these has a set of dice that go with them. So this Rogue, so first of all, there's a way to upgrade the Rogue. Then it says, this is a special ability for the Rogue. When engaged by an adjacent enemy, prevent 1 damage dealt to you for each miss that was rolled. And this is over and over. So basically, they got really good dodge. And then these skills that you see the numbers on, these are what's called tenacity, which if you play too many bones, this is the same as spending bones. But as you gain tenacity, you can spend those points. And these are the point values. So if I spend 4 points as a rogue, I can exercise this skill right here. And that's what these classes do for you. And then the other side of it is just, it's the master side. So when you meet the condition to become master, you flip it over and then you have these skills. And they could be slightly different. I actually tried to look and find what the difference is, and it's not always easy to see. I think some of these where you see this little rope-looking symbol, those changed. Because if you flip it back over, there's no rope symbol. So I think it's trying to highlight for you which ones are different because you're now a master. But anyways, you got a whole bunch of these to choose from, and these are your class. Now, don't mistake that with your skills. These are your skills. And so if I choose to become a rogue, I still have to choose which skill I want to be. So I can choose Shadow. which probably would be really thematic, right? To fit with the rogue. So now I have the shadow skill with my rogue. So the rogue has a special ability, my class has a special ability, and then the shadow is the actual dice I get to roll. And you can see these are all the sides of a dice, and it's explaining to you what the different sides do. And this is level 3 and 4 for shadow. And then this side is your level 1. So your level 1 die looks like this. So what we have to do is we have to select all of this and create our characters. And that's the last thing we got to do. We got to do that. Plus we have to choose which quest we're going to do. So I'm going to do that in the next video as part of the playthrough. Largely because I don't want to analyze while I'm recording. I have a lot to review. So I'm going to review it. I'm going to set up my table to look a lot nicer than it currently is. Get my characters figured out that I want to play. And then we'll do the playthrough, and I'll just briefly explain what I chose and how I set them up and why maybe I made those decisions. And then we'll select our quest, or I'll show you which quest I selected. And then we're going to just jump in and go. And I probably am going to select a complexity 1 quest, even though you're supposed to draw 3 of these cards and then just choose from that. But we're going to just go grab a complexity 1 quest. So just to keep it simpler for me as I'm learning to play. And yeah, that's it. So welcome to the table. And I'm pretty excited about this game. It looks pretty good. Not a huge fan of having a bunch of cards that, the equipment modifies what you can do. And the reason I'm not a fan is if I'm controlling 4 characters and each of them can have like 5 cards equipped or 4 cards equipped, that's a lot you have to remember. And my memory is not as good as it used to be. Anyways, thanks for watching. As always, stay awesome.